Now, this morning, two of the main political stories around both concern UKIP. Firstly, it emerged over the weekend that officials working for Rotherham Council removed 3 children from their foster parents because the parents were UKIP members. The Director of Children's Services at the Council, Joyce Thacker, has defended the decision, saying these children are from EU migrant backgrounds, and UKIP has very clear statements on ending multiculturalism. Rotherham Council is Labour-controlled, and the council has ordered a report into the case, which apparently they are looking at as we speak. Well, joining me now from Rotherham is the BBC's Yorkshire political editor, Len Tingle. Len Tingle, thanks for joining us. What can you tell us if they're discussing that report? And I heard you saying earlier that there's already been a meeting between Joyce Thacker, the leader of the council, and the chief executive. What's come out of it?
Well, that ended about half an hour ago. Literally 2 minutes ago, popping into my inbox here was a statement from the council. Joyce Thacker came out of this meeting. She walked right past us. I asked her if she was felt under pressure, whether she thought that she was still in a job. She walked past us without saying a word. A couple of minutes later, the leader of the council, and this is a Labour-led council, and you can probably hear behind me here, we're right in the middle of a by-election as well. All these things happening at once. I don't think that it's entirely coincidental that Respect have pulled their truck up right behind me here. But as far as this particular issue is concerned, we're hearing from the council in their statement that they have ordered a further inquiry, that they are not talking about any disciplinary action against any members of the council. They want to know more. They say that the interests of the children are paramount, that they're sending a report to the Secretary of State, and that's about as far as they've got this morning. We are not expecting the council to give any statements. In fact, the leader of the council, Roger Stone, as you said, this is probably one of the councils that has more Labour councillors on it than any other council in the country. I think there are only 4 councillors in the entire council that are not Labour. The leader, Roger Stone, veteran leader, again, walked past us without making any statement at all.
Right, so it sounds like nobody's talking just at the moment. Yes, interesting campaigning tactics there from the party as they wave behind you. You can't do anything about that. Len Tingle, thank you very much. Elsewhere this morning, the Conservative Party Vice-Chairman, Michael Fabricant, has called for an electoral pact with UKIP. He thinks David Cameron should promise to hold an in-out referendum on UK membership of the EU if UKIP promises not to stand against Conservative candidates in 2015. Mr Fabricant says such a deal could mark the final rapprochement between warring brothers. But UKIP leader Nigel Farage wasn't having any of it, tweeting in response, "No deal with the Tories, it's war." Well, we'll hear from Michael Fabricant a little later in the programme, but first I'm joined by the UKIP leader Nigel Farage. 2 issues there. Let's deal with Rotherham first of all. You want heads to roll?
Well, absolutely. What's happened here is an outrage, and I think that sentiment is shared by the vast majority of people in this country. You know, this couple have been fostering for 7 years. They've done an impeccable job, and on the basis of their views that they support a party that thinks we shouldn't be in the EU and we should control migration to Britain, this has been done to them. And so I want them to be pardoned. I want the children to be returned to them. And yes, heads should roll, and let's face it.
Whose heads? I mean, Joyce Thacker.
Without any shadow of a doubt, she should go. And don't forget, this is not the first time this year that Rotherham have done very badly in protecting the interests of children.
Right. I mean, what is the party's policy on multiculturalism?
Well, we don't want to live in a country where we spend state money encouraging further division in society. And that's what we did for 40 years, pursuing multiculturalism. Indeed, Trevor Phillips, the Prime Minister, now agree with that. So we think that if people come here legally, we've got to make sure they all speak English and they integrate.
You don't like councils promoting the idea of multiculturalism,
that's right.
Basically. I mean, you know, as an observer, what is your reaction to the story, just looking at it from a sort of human perspective, that, you know, this couple have been fostering, 3 children have been taken away, apparently on the basis of being members of UKIP?
I think when you see the headlines, it's very stark and really worrying because actually the children need to be protected. If there were any concerns about the family, the children shouldn't have been placed with them in the first place because that's terribly disruptive for the children. Actually, I don't think being a member of a party should be any bar to fostering. Actually, I think it should probably be encouraged because, you know, they're actually more understanding about society. I mean, I'd like to see if there's any more behind it than just being a member of UKIP.
Let's come back to the issue of multiculturalism because Nigel Farage, Joyce Thacker, who defended her position, actually, at the weekend, has said that the children who were from EU migrant backgrounds had been removed to protect their cultural and ethnic needs from UKIP's strong views and apparent opposition to multiculturalism. Now, she says she's legally obliged to fulfil that requirement.
Well, I mean, we don't buy that.
What don't you buy?
Well, the idea, she was backtracking here because initially what the couple were told is that the children were being removed because UKIP was viewed as a racist party. That is what that couple were told. That is why the children were removed. What Joyce Thacker now is doing is backtracking ever so slightly. But actually, the truth of it is, these 3 children were singing nursery rhymes in their native language, and they were doing the same in English too. Surely that showed they were in a very good environment indeed.
Yes, but it's on the point, isn't it, that Joyce Thacker, backtracking or not, and rightly or wrongly, feels that she is only doing what she is supposed to do legally. I mean, children's services, to some extent, you could say, are trapped here because judges insist that children from an ethnic minority background are placed in homes to promote ethnic, linguistic and cultural minorities, which UKIP doesn't believe in.
Well, that was happening in the sense that the children weren't being told to forget their background, weren't being told to give up their language, far from it. They were being, but they were also...
But can you understand Joyce Thacker's view? I mean, the logical... it may be wrong as far as you see it, but the logical train of thought there is that actually this family weren't the right family because they wouldn't be wanting to promote those things because you've said yourself that's not what UKIP believes in.
We were trapped for 40 years in this multicultural idea. We've moved on. Virtually everybody has moved on and recognises that the way we were doing it was a mistake.
Right, but, as you say, if you're asking her to go, what's she done wrong if she was only fulfilling what she's expected to do, Joyce Thacker?
She has sent her officers in and removed 3 children from a loving environment on the basis they were members of a racist party. She's wrong.
Right. Now, you've said that you want the children returned to the couple. You've heard there that the report, no disciplinary action is going to take place just at the moment. What are you going to do?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? These people are now left in limbo. The children have been uprooted once again. Heads clearly aren't going to roll, and I'm concerned that the inquiry is just a means of kicking the can down the road. So if we're not going to get redress from Rotherham Council, we will have to consider other measures.
Other measures being?
We'll have to look at the legal route.
Right. On the basis of them being accused of
being
being
basis
racist.
That they have been discriminated against, yes.
Right. I mean, of course, you could argue that whoever the official was in Rotherham isn't the only person to be disparaging about UKIP. David Cameron himself in 2006 said that members of UKIP mostly, not all, but the members of UKIP mostly were fruitcakes, loonies and closet racists.
Yeah, well, on Saturday, from Ed Miliband through to Michael Gove, we saw virtually everybody in British politics saying this was wrong because UKIP is not a racist party. Indeed, actually, Joyce Thacker said she thought UKIP wasn't a racist party on Radio 4, so more backtracking there. But the only person on Saturday that chose to abuse UKIP and to imply that somehow it was a racist party was David Cameron again, and we are appalled by the way he's behaved over this.
And what are you going to say? I mean, you're saying you're appalled here, but what are you going to do about that?
Well, I think that links into the next story a bit, doesn't it, really? That Michael Fabricant has got this idea that somehow they're going to buy us off by offering me a job, and then UKIP's going to pack its tents and go home. Well, the trouble, Mr Fabricant, is it's very, very difficult, firstly, for us to believe anything David Cameron says.
All right.
Because, after all, he did promise, he gave us a cast-iron guarantee, if you remember, that we'd have a referendum, and it hasn't happened.
Since you've cued it so beautifully for me, Nigel Farage, we can swap seats if you like. Well,